What's doing, everybody? Welcome to the channel. Welcome to the channel. I appreciate you tuning in. I hope you hit the subscribe button. Hope you hit the notification bell. Check out plenty of the content that I have up there. Plenty of videos to look into. Everybody else, my viewers, my return people, my subscribers, bless you and thank you for coming back. I hope everything is good out there for you guys. Rikers Island. My almost escape from Rikers Island. I came this close to getting out of Rikers Island. I'm going to tell you about that story, how it went bad, how everything came to an end, and how I discovered the possible ability to escape out of Rikers. I was in Rikers Island for 3 years, 1996, 1997, and 1998. I was there for 3 years because I was fighting my case, and you stay on Rikers Island as you're fighting your case. Rikers Island is a jail, different than prison for those of you that don't know. A jail is a place where you are serving your time if you are serving under 1 year. Let's say the judge gives you 8 months, the judge gives you 30 days, the judge gives you 1 week. You serve that inside of a jail. If you get sentenced to more than 1 year, then you go upstate to prison. So there's different type of people on Rikers Island. There's the people that are serving short sentences. There's people that were sentenced to prison and they're just waiting to go up to prison as well. So there's people that haven't been sentenced yet that are still fighting their case. So those are the three types of individuals that are on Rikers Island. And as I said, I was there for 3 years. I won't get into the whole design of Rikers Island. I have different videos on that. But there's 10 different jails inside of Rikers Island, 10 different buildings that they house prisoners in. Those buildings have names like OBCC, C95, C76, C73. And when I was there, Rikers Island was complete chaos. To give you an example of then and now, when I was there were 16,000 prisoners, 16,000 prisoners on Rikers Island on any given day. It was like a city. And now there's about 6,000, if that, prisoners on Rikers Island. So 10,000 less than when I was there. And the reason for that is because New York has become very liberal in their criminal justice system. The bail reform laws have made the prison population dwindle by almost 10,000 prisoners. The fact that they want to close Rikers Island is also a big deal. So it's Rikers Island is not as populated as it used to be. This past week, the federal government has stepped in to take control of Rikers Island. A couple of people in the comments asked me if I would do a video on that. The reason I haven't is because Rikers Island has been taken over by the federal government, taken over by the National Guard countless times. It happens every few years where the city can't control the jail, the city can't handle the jail, and the feds have to step in and take control of this place that's a disaster. Why they wouldn't be able to control a jail that has only 4 to 6,000 prisoners when they used to run with 16,000 prisoners is beyond me. You see, a lot of people want to close Rikers Island. Politics comes into play, right? There's people that want to build condominiums on Rikers Island. There's people that want to build a whole housing system on Rikers Island. So those politicians have a lot to gain. They have a lot of money to stick in their pocket from contractors, from real estate people, from investors, from bankers, right? A lot of people would benefit if they closed Rikers Island and built homes and condominiums there. The construction companies would benefit. Tons of people. Window companies would benefit. Plumbers and electricians, big companies would benefit if they built an entire place there, right? And then a lot of people would lose money. The people would lose money are the people that get paid for keeping Rikers Island open. If Rikers Island gets 83 million, well, it's actually, yeah, if they get $83 million a year and they can run the prison on $8 million a year, where's the rest of that money going? So there's a lot of people that would benefit from keeping it open. The love of money is the root of all evil, baby. They use the excuse that it's the Rikers Island is a dangerous place and we need to close it. All prisons are dangerous. What do you think? It's not Disneyland. You know, if a prison is dangerous, then you find a way to run it right. You find a way to run it correctly. That's the answer. That's the solution. The solution is not closing the place, right? And then what do you do with the people that deserve to be in jail? There's people that deserve to be in jail, right? So whatever, that's a whole different topic. We're going to talk about how I almost escaped from the joint, right? So when I was on Rikers Island, I was facing 25 years to life. My case was still going. I believed in my heart and soul that I was going to die in the prison system. I figured they were going to give me a life sentence and I would never get out. So because of that, if I saw the opportunity to get out of that place, I was going to jump on that opportunity and try and make it happen. And this is how it happened. I was in a dorm. I was in a building called C95. And what C95 is was modular building, just like a modular home, right? And it was sitting on top of a foundation, right? In other words, if you were able to get out of this modular home, it was dormitories. You weren't in cells. You were in a dorm, and that dorm was like a fabricated building. And if you were able to get out of this fabricated building, the only thing stopping you from the East River was two fences filled with razor wire. And I could get over those fences filled with razor wire. I just needed to get to the fences. And if I could get to them in the middle of the night, I'd be able to get over them and jump in the East River, because that's the only way off of Rikers Island. It truly is an island in the East River, and there's only one way in and one way out, and that's a bridge. And you can't cross the bridge because there's security checkpoints on the bridge. So you would have to jump in the water and swim out like my man Hank did. My man Hank escaped from Rikers Island. There's been quite a few escapes from Rikers Island. So I'm in this dormitory. I'm in 11 dorm. It's called 11B in C95. And there's about 65 men in the dorm. And there was inside of the bathroom. My friend told me about this, one of the other prisoners. Inside of the bathroom, he comes to me and he's like, "Hey, Fish," he said, "they have a board screwed down in the bathroom right where the urinals are." It was like 10 urinals, 10 showers, and 10 toilets. He was like, "There's a board on the floor." He goes, "I pulled the board up and there was a hole in the floor." So what happened is there was a hole in the dormitory floor, a small hole, like a 4 or 5 inch hole, just like that big. And they put a big 3 foot board on top of it and screwed it down. I guess instead of fixing the hole, or until they got the opportunity to fix it, or they just covered it with a big board. And so I waited until the middle of the night when the officer left the dormitory, because the officer used to leave every night to go into what they call the bubble to hang out with the other officers. And I had to be not just careful of the officer, I had to be careful of the other prisoners, because the other prisoners are going to rat you out in a second if they catch you doing that. If they rat on each other, these ones that call themselves gangsters and tough guys and walk around like they're the shit, they'll rat you out in a second. And so I have to be careful, and I can't let anybody see me do this. So I get my buddy to be a lookout for me, and I go in there, and I figure it's going to be hard to pull this board up off of the floor. I grab it with 2 hands and pull it, and it comes right up. And what I see is that 5 inch hole underneath. And right there, when I pulled up the board, I said, "Let me see if I can make this hole a little bigger by just taking my foot and trying to smash it and make it a little bigger." And when I lift up my foot and smash it, it opens right away. Boom, my whole leg goes right down through the hole, and it rips my shin open. Bad, too. I still have the scar till this day. It rips my shin open. My shin is gushing blood. I pull my leg out. I put the board back down over the hole, and then I go wash my leg up, wrap it up, clean it up, and my heart is pumping. My heart is pumping. And my boy, "What happened? What happened?" I said, "Yo, listen, my whole leg went through the hole. I opened up, I made the hole from 4 or 5 inches to about 8 inches, with a couple of smash. I just smashed it a few times. So now I got a nice size hole there, but not a hole I can fit through yet." We put the board back down. We lay the board back down, and I wait a couple of nights again. You know what I mean? I just, I'm thinking about it all day long now, thinking about it all day long, staring at the window, looking at the fences, looking which would be the best area to get over the fence. Did I see where the razor wire, there was in the corner where the razor wire met each other, there was a little gap. So I'm looking out the window every day on where would be the best opportunity to climb over the razor wire. And I start saving blankets, like these wool blankets, because if I bring 3, 4 blankets with me, I could throw the blankets over the razor wire. This way I could climb over the razor wire without getting cut. And as I said, I'm facing 25 years to life. So if this opportunity comes, I'm trying to skate. I'm trying to get out of there, you know. And a few nights later, I see the opportunity to go work on the hole again. And make a long story short, I'm working on it for a couple of weeks, and then I finally get it big enough where I tell my buddy, yo, I'm going down under the dome. I'm climbing in that hole. I said, I need you to look out for me because I have to see what the situation is down there. And I'll never forget my first night climbing down in there. My heart was beating through my chest. I wasn't scared. I was nervous. You know what I mean? The adrenaline rush is insane of crawling under the jail, while everyone is above you sleeping in the dorm. It was pretty intense. I will never forget that feeling, and, so that first night I have my buddy look out and I climb down into this hole. And when I get under the dorm, it's not big enough to stand up. It's not even big enough to really be on your knees. I can crawl under there. And when I crawl under there, I even have to keep my head down. We're talking maybe 3 feet in height. I have about 3 feet. It's all sand under there. When I go down under the dorm and I'm crawling. I want to get to the end of the dorm so I can see the foundation that this building is sitting on. And I crawl all the way to the end. And when I get there, there's cinder block. And so I start digging down a little bit in the sand, moving sand out of the way. And I dig pretty deep, and I'm like 3 cinder blocks down, which is a cinder block is like 7 inches. So I'm 21 inches down. I'm 2 feet down, working on getting 3 feet down. And I realize that this modular home is sitting on at least 3, 4 cinder blocks deep. And they look like they're in good shape. They're not old and decrepit. They look really solid, and so there's no way I'm going to get to the bottom and then be able to go under and come up on the other side. That's not going to happen. You know what I mean? That would take way too much work if it was even possible. And so now I have to say to myself, all right, I come up out of the hole. Once I see that, I go down there 2, 3 times and dig, and everything has been going smooth and going smooth. And I tell my buddy, I got to think of something else, man. I can't go underneath it. There's just too much. And a couple of nights later, I go back down there and I said, let me see if I could just start kicking this thing as hard as I can to see if I could loosen one of the cinder blocks. I remember I went down there with a little piece of metal from a desk. If you know when you pull open a desk drawer, it has the thin like brackets on the side to help it open and close. And I brought one of those metal brackets down there with me, and I was trying to work on one of the cement cinder block things, like carving out the cement in between the block, but it wasn't working too good. It wasn't working good. I think also that would have worked. But when I was down there, I was also impatient. I was also rushing. I was also nervous, And so I said, I'm going to start kicking this thing to see if I could loosen it up. And like I said, I didn't have much room under there. So one night when I go down, I lay on my back and I am kicking this wall with everything I got, man. And I'm like 26 years old. I'm in tremendous shape. And not the strongest part of my body is my legs. I have always, since I was a young kid, had huge, strong, muscular legs. And I am down there kicking this with everything I have. Boom, boom, boom. Excuse me. And my buddy sticks his head down the hole and he's like, yo, Fish, stop, stop. He goes, the whole dorm is shaking. The whole dorm is shaking. He didn't, I was waking people up. I was kicking so hard that the noise was loud and the dorm was shaking. And we can't alert the cops and we can't alert the other prisoners. So I come back up there and I says, I can't figure this out, I just remember the feeling. One thing I can't explain, the feeling of attempting to escape is such a a rush. It's like it's incredible. Like as you're working on it, and it's all you could think about, day and night. And as you're actually doing it, it's like this tingling is going through your body like crazy. It's really nuts. And so every time we would come up, of course, we would put the board back on top of the hole, and you always feel like you got to get it done because they're going to come discover this hole. That's the real concern. They're going to discover this hole under the board, and always had to watch out for the other prisoners too. As I said, very dangerous. And so let me tell you how this all comes to an end. Why I didn't get to pursue this even further. The reason I didn't get to pursue it further is because I was sleeping with the therapist that worked in the dorm. We had a female therapist there, and she used to come in and give therapy to the prisoners. She would meet with the prisoners once a week, and I was sleeping with this woman. I was having sex with her, and I explained in a video the story about what happened with her, but the relationship didn't end good because uh, I was getting placed in front of the judge, and I wanted her to write a letter saying that I wasn't mentally and emotionally fit to stand in front of the judge. And she said she couldn't write that letter because her boss wouldn't allow her to write that letter without more, evidence and sufficient grounds to write the letter. And, she would say, I'm sorry, I can't do that. And because we were having sex together almost every day, I told her, listen, you're breaking all the rules already. So, I mean, write the letter for me. But she was telling me it was something she couldn't do. So I ended up threatening her. It wasn't a threat that I really was going to carry out, but I just wanted to get her scared and make her do that. And I threatened her husband. She was married. And I said, listen, when your husband steps out of the house for work, I'm going to have someone hit him in the face with a hammer tomorrow morning. I says, if you don't write that letter for me. And that wasn't a good idea because she panicked. She got scared now. And she went to the administration. And I guess she told the administration that she was having an inappropriate relationship with me. Who knows? I don't know what she told them, to be honest. But I was sitting in my bed in the middle of the night. And next thing you know, four officers come in with suits and ties. They kick my bed, and I opened my eyes, and they said, "What's your name?" I told them my name. They said, "Stand up and put your hands behind your back." They put a pair of handcuffs on me, and they said, "Who do you know in this dorm that you want to pack your stuff?" And I called my man Leroy. Leroy came up front. They said, "You know where his property is?" Leroy said, "Yeah." They said, "Pack his shit." And they packed up all my stuff and they moved me to a building called OBCC. And OBCC is like called the oldest Bantam unit or something like that. But it was the most secure building on Rikers Island. And they moved me to that building. They got me out of there, and so the escape the plot was foiled. You know what I mean? It all came to an end right there because they moved me to the most secure building on Rikers Island. I would also later find out that one of the prisoners even told on me for the attempted escape because I was later questioned about it, and of course denied everything. But I was questioned about that. So I got shipped out of there, man. My escape from Rikers Island came to an end. I had almost made it. I was close. I was this close. I guess thankfully I didn't get out of there because if I would have got out of there, the truth is they're going to catch you anyway. It's only a matter of time. It is. It's only a matter of time. Um, because it's very hard to move. In those days, it's easier than today. A matter of fact, there was an escape. I believe it was in New Orleans yesterday. There was an escape of 10 prisoners that looks like they had some inside help. That's what they're suggesting so far from one of the officers. But they escaped through ripping a toilet out of a wall. Never build a toilet on an exterior wall. Not a smart idea, but they were able to get out, and 10 of them actually made it to freedom. Three of them have been arrested at the time of this video, and so that means there's another seven out there still scooting around. uh, boy, they got to have some feeling on the run, But the thing is, when you escape these days, or when you're on the run these days with technology, it's impossible. Nothing's impossible, but it's almost impossible to move. You know what I mean? You can't use a phone and call anyone, right? Because if you call someone and you have a phone, what happens? I'll give you a quick example. When you escape from prison, they have a certain protocol that they follow. They have a blueprint that they follow when there's an escape. And of course, when someone escapes, the first thing for 24 hours is to search a 3 mile perimeter around the prison. Okay, they do that for 24, I believe, to 48 hours. They search a 3 mile perimeter around the prison, up and down. After 48 hours, they make the determination that the person that escaped has gotten away. And then after that, they start going to the neighborhoods that the people live in. They start going to airports, train stations, bus stations outside of that grid that they originally searched, and they start looking to see where you would go. But for the first, I always said, if I ever escaped and they were hot on my trail, I'm going right down into the sewer for 48 hours. You know what I mean? And once that initial 48-hour search is done on that 3 5 mile grid, then I'll come up and move. But so now these days, as I said, you can't use a phone because they'll trace the phone. If you call any your family, or you call some friends, that they're going to be on top of that. The feds are going to be on top of that. You can't go over bridges or tunnels, or you can't go into airports or bus stations or train stations. You'd have to be a master of disguise as well, and you have to have money. You know what I mean? You're not getting on a plane these days without the real ID, and so that's very difficult. So now you need money. You need to be a master of disguise. You can't contact anyone, and you need enough money to live. You know what I mean? And the average man who's escaping out of prison, the average man doesn't have access to those type of funds right away. So it's usually just a matter of time that they get you. And half of the guys that do escape are so stupid, they go back to the neighborhood that they were from. And also when you escape, they look at who you contact while you're incarcerated. They're going to look at every single person you called. They're going to look at every single person you got a piece of mail from. They're going to look at every single person that you got a visit from. And all those people are going to be under surveillance to see if you go see any of them. So that means if you escape, you can't go see anyone that came to visit you. You can't see anyone that you called. You can't see anyone that you have on a list, as family. So you're really limited the way you can go. It's difficult. It's a matter of time. As I said, they got 3 already. I bet you within another 48 hours, they'll have 3, 4 more. Of course, there'll be 1 or 2 that can boogie for a little while. You know what I mean? That can get out of there. But as I've said, back to my case, thankfully I didn't get out of there, because they would have caught me. They would have added on some more years in prison. And who knows, who knows? But I figured I'd take you to my almost escape inside of the prison system. If I could find a little video about the guys that recently escaped, I'll add it in at the end of this video. If not, if it's not there, it's not there. You know what I mean? You could just go check it out. But Rikers Island was a crazy place, man. Rikers Island was a crazy place. Excuse me. Can I take a sip of my Snapple? Pardon me. Nice. I like the lemon Snapple the best. This is peach. Peach is all right. It's got to be ice cold. Lemon Snapple is good. The raspberry Snapple is nice too. You know. Yeah, Rikers Island was a crazy trip. I fought like crazy on Rikers Island. I must have had 50 fights on Rikers Island, and I am not exaggerating. You're a white guy going in there from Long Island, you're gonna fight in there. I mean, anyone fights in there. But when they saw, they ended up learning the hard way. I'm being honest. Like I always say, I don't try and sound like a tough guy, but I love to fight. Boy, I mean, I was a fighting adrenaline junkie. I grew up loving it. Boxing, wrestling, Brazilian jiu-jitsu, fighting in the bars. I was always an aggressive guy that loved to fight, But a lot of people are pretty ignorant, and they see a white guy coming there from Long Island, and as they always say, it ain't where you're from, it's where you at. And eventually they pointed the finger at me, and they were like, yo, you see that white guy over there? They said, stay far away from him. I was a pretty wild guy. I was getting involved in fights that didn't even have anything to do with me, just because I wanted to fight. And so after I was tested, but you're constantly tested, because when you're in jail, new guys are coming in all the time, every day. They have thousands of people coming in every day from Brooklyn, the Bronx, Manhattan, Queens, and they get released every day, and they come in every day. It's like a revolving door, and so the drama never stops. My first fight was my first night in there. Was a guy that stole my razor, my shaving razor that I left in the shower, and I made an announcement. Whoever took my razor, I says, I hope you shave your face with it, because I shaved my balls with it. Excuse my language. And I ended up cursing a few people out, and some guy got up to mouth off. I spoke about that story in one of my other videos. But a lot of violence in Rikers Island, really on a consistent basis, every day, all day long. Officers assaulted, prisoners assaulted, people getting their faces cut open with scalpels and razor blades, people getting set on fire, officers getting robbed, officers getting robbed. I saw an officer wear his Rolex watch to work. They beat him up and took it with his wallet. I mean, just crazy. These guys don't care. They're right out of the gutter, man. And you have a lot of the population is withdrawing off of drugs in Rikers Island, right? Because they're just getting arrested and coming off the street, and so they're withdrawing off of drugs. And when you're withdrawing off of drugs, you're really irritable. You're jonesing. You need help bad. These people, and then you got a lot of people coming off the street that don't have anything. They don't have two nickels to rub together. They don't have any money for commissary. They don't have any money for coffee. They don't have any money for cigarettes. They don't have anybody coming to visit them. They don't have anybody sending them a package. And they're right off of the streets. They're out of the gutter. You know what I mean? And these become dangerous individuals now. Just think, if you were in a position where you didn't have anything to eat, you're trying to live off the prison food, and they're scared. They're scared. They don't know what their sentence is going to be yet. They don't know if they're going to get 1 day or 1 year. Guys don't know if they're going to get 5 years or 15 years. And there's a lot of guys getting locked up for murder that are going to get life. And so now they're on Rikers Island. They just got arrested. They're coming off of drugs. They're facing life in prison. I was one of those. I was in Rikers Island, coming off of angel dust, just got caught in Texas on the run, put in prison, facing 25 years to life for murder, 20 or 24 years old when they caught me. I was a dangerous guy, and so it's a place that you didn't want to be. Rikers Island is a jungle. I always said it's the cement jungle, and a lot of mentally ill there. A lot of mentally ill people that don't belong in jail at all, people that should be in a mental institution. But New York State closed most of its mental institutions 30 years ago. There's only a couple of them. So they said that they designed Rikers Island to be able to handle the mentally ill with mental health units, right? But what they do is they just put the mentally ill right in the regular population. And then they if they need medication, they call them the medication at the hospital, give them medication, and drop them back in to the population. So yeah, I was constantly fighting there. One of the hardest fights I ever had was on Rikers Island in my life. A really, really tough guy. I'll never forget, he had Jesus Christ tattooed on his forehead. He had an image of Jesus tattooed on his forehead. This crazy Spanish guy. He was tough, man. He was tough. We got into a fight because he kept bumping into me when I was on the telephone talking to my family. And I said, excuse me, man, back up a little bit. And then he bumped into me again. I said, yo, you don't see me on the phone? And we ended up fighting. And it was a long fight, 3-4 minutes, which is long. Anyone that knows about fighting, the average fight is about 30 seconds, 40 seconds. You know what I mean? We were going at it from, this guy was tough. If it wasn't for my friend mentally ill Rodney, he had to help me on that one. Yeah, he did. But that wasn't usual for me, because I enjoyed it. I told you I enjoyed it. And I could give you a lot of stories about Rikers. They had an old saying, ain't no smiling on Rikers Island, boy. It was definitely a dangerous place. Definitely a dangerous place. But I almost got out of there. Almost don't count. No, almost don't count. Only, what do they say? Almost counts only in horseshoes and hand grenades. Otherwise, don't count. But all right, listen, I'm wrapping this up. I'm talking too much for you guys. I could tell you stories all day, but Rikers Island is now under federal control. We'll see whether they keep it open, keep it closed. Was one of the biggest jails in the country, even the world, in like the top 10 biggest jails in the world at one point. Maybe, So let me go. Let me shut my mouth. Right? You guys are the best. Thank you for supporting the channel. Let me close by saying that. Thank you for supporting the channel. I appreciate you. I'm close to 7,000 subscribers. I never thought that it would grow like that. You know, I guess if I was showing stupidity, I'd have 700,000 subscribers, right? Because there's so many people out there that like watching meaningless stuff. You know, and so let me. I'm ending for real now, but let me end with this message to the youth. I always like to speak to the youth in the end of my message, right? Don't go to Rikers Island. Maintain impulse control in your life. Set goals, focus on those goals, go after your goals with determination. Use your brain. Don't follow the crowd. Don't cave into peer pressure. Life is short, man. Life is short, and you only have one shot at it. you know, and you don't want to be locked up and go into prison with criminal charges because it haunts you for the rest of your life. It's still haunting me, and I'm in my early 50s right now. You know what I mean? And I'm still paying for those choices I made 27 years ago. They still hinder me till this day. They hinder me mentally. They hinder me emotionally. They hinder me when it's time to find employment. They hinder me in relationships. I have post traumatic stress from everything. There's a lot that you go through when you become incarcerated, and it's just not worth it. We should be good people in this world, not bad people, man. We should be good people, and we should live the right way. We should live with proper morals. We should live with proper values. We should respect people in public. We should respect strangers. And I say respect women and children. No, respect everybody. Don't just respect women and children. Respect women, children, your neighbor, old people, young people, white people, black people, Spanish people, Asian people, wherever they're from. Any country, just respect people, and carry yourself like that on a daily basis. I didn't when I always respected people, but I was a lost, crazy kid. That's a whole nother story. We're not getting into that. I got lost. And if you're lost right now, find yourself, ground yourself, and stay away from people that are doing the wrong thing. Birds of a feather flock together. If I need to describe you, all I have to do is look at your friends. Your friends will tell me who you are. If you have friends that are going nowhere, then I can guarantee you almost that you're going nowhere as well. And I don't want you to experience the pain that I experienced. I don't want you to live the life that I lived. I don't want you to hurt your life. As I said, we're here one time. Make it a good one, guys. All right. Love you. I'm wrapping this up. You guys take care.